The greatest form of control is where you think you're free when you're being fundamentally manipulated and dictated. One form of dictatorship is being in a prison cell and you can see the bars and touch it. The other one is sitting in a prison cell but you can't see the bar, you think you're free. What the human race is suffering from is mass hypnosis. We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
I am finally glad and very honored to have Dr. Matthew Aaron on my show. I've actually shared an episode with him on the Ella Free podcast, and the things he had to say was, spectacular. He had a lot of information and just information on get-togethers as well. We gotta march, we gotta rally, we gotta get together, we gotta get our voices out there, we gotta be seen. Standing in front of town hall, standing in front of capital city buildings, just doing everything that you can to let these people know that we're not happy. They gotta see it. They really gotta see it. We can't be subdued underneath such horrendous social constructs that we're being forced to deal with on a daily basis. So, yeah, without further ado, yes, I have Dr. Aaron Matthew. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. To stay more with the technology, I would love to hear your input on my movie. You watched my movie, right? And my presentation
yep.
on chemtrail mind control.
Yep, I watched the entire thing, yep.
Well, I don't claim to be an expert in anything except for being an expert researcher. Because, that's something that we all got to do, and if you're going to be good at something, you got to be able to research. So I did my best to put together something that's comprehensible to the people. So, what do you think?
I was impressed. I'd like to make a qualifying statement before I can give you my feedback, but I will say that I believe that people like me, everyone has something different to contribute to our shared global cause. And being someone who has worked in mainstream science, and I even still have a job with an unnamed, let's just say I have a job with people that work in science at a high national level. I don't want to mention where, but I'm 100% committed to this cause. The only reason I don't want to mention where is because I could potentially get fired for doing so.
Okay.
And I want to remain nimble towards this cause by keeping my mainstream scientist's hat on. Okay, so I hope you can respect that. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So my feedback will be feedback from that perspective, and I won't diverge from that perspective, because I think as our cause gains more public awareness, I think I'll have a role to play by potentially being able to bridge mainstream people into the movement, if that makes sense. But in that, with that context in mind, I'll give you my assessment of what I saw.
Please do.
From
a professional.
Sorry?
I said from a professional. Yes, please.
Yes. I also like to. I keep my my interest in this electronic harassment which is the mainstream word for, well, it's our mainstream word. Electronic harassment and the crimes involved in that are my main focus. The crimes and the costs of those crimes and the effects on victims. But I can't, it's hard to conclude or speculate too far on the grand mechanism. Well, there's probably a multitude of mechanisms, but I like to restrict my focus as well. So anyway, I've qualified enough. So for example, I have not had an interest in chemtrails very much. But I'll say one thing that I got from your documentary is that just watching your documentary makes me more intrigued or convinced that there is something going on that we're not being told about depositing chemical substances in the sky that deviate from what are known as contrails. And I have not been convinced, but I haven't put much research or time into it, but your documentary was enlightening in that regard.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If I can get to one person, at least one person, it's all worth it.
And then when you go on to make links to, I don't want to use words for you, but it basically seems like you're making hypothetical, and I'm saying that in terms of a hypothesis or a theory, links between chemtrail deposition and influences of radio frequency signals, including microwaves, on the human nervous system. That there's a link there that you're exploring in your video.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
That's obvious, right? So
yes.
that link. I'm trying to choose my words carefully, but that link involves nanotechnology, and you were using as analogies or as potential examples things like quantum computing, and even experiments at the quantum scale where they can use entanglement to transport photons basically over distances instantaneously.
Yes, information. Yes.
Information. Okay.
Yes.
So my scientific intuition. I'm a biologist by training. I'm not a physicist, so I can say I'm a well-trained biologist. I've published many papers in top science journals. I know advanced statistics, and there's certain things about those connections that are abrasive to my scientific intuition. But
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No, I mean my scientific intuition, for example, tells me that things at the quantum level, some of those quantum experiments that you showed required temperatures near absolute zero, for example. Well, human bodies are 37 degrees Celsius, so they're far above absolute zero. So quantum phenomena don't really operate at biologically relevant temperatures. I mean, those that you were showing in your... So basically, some of the connections... Now, I'm not ruling them out, but the jumps there are from a biologist's perspective, in the mainstream, gargantuan leaps of potential connections, which would require extraordinary evidence to demonstrate. But at the same time, I am glad that people are asking these questions, because there's no doubt that secret technology is being deployed, and secrecy is a very dangerous thing.
I still have Romola D from Romola D Reports, and we're just hashing out the issues here. So from one target individual media host to another. I mean, well, actually, let me take a step back and ask you, how is it being able to work with my big sis on your show all the time? Uh, Karen Stewart, you know what I'm talking
Karen
about.
Stewart, oh, it's
Yeah, that's my
wonderful.
big sis.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, no, Karen's wonderful, and I really admire Karen because she's not ever wavered from her mission to inform the world about what's going on. From her obviously superior vantage point of having been an NSA employee and an NSA intelligence analyst with top secret clearance, but somebody who obviously is not breaching that clearance when she's revealing that she has personally experienced being literally physically stalked and being hit with electromagnetic weapons from NSA security and U.S. naval security. These are the people who've been following her and, hitting her with weapons, and also FBI, I think, in Florida. So she's extraordinary because there are very few whistleblowers from inside the government who will speak openly about directed energy weapon use on Americans. And the reason for that, I think, is possibly obvious, that anybody who mentions it gets targeted themselves, gets hit themselves. That apparently is the way that the system or this program has been set up. You speak about it, you're going to be hit hard. If you're already targeted, and we know that, we know how that goes down, right? But that doesn't stop us from speaking out. We're already targeted, we're being hit. We're being hit harder when we speak up, when we bring, guests with power and voice into the media space. But that hasn't stopped me, and I doubt it's stopping you.
Not
Good.
at all.
I'm glad to find a kindred spirit here. Because, we need people like you and me out there to stand up and say, okay, I won't say what I was really going to say, to say that we really have to do this.
I have actually come across a person who is of great historical value, and I hope I'm using that term correctly because she's not dead yet. And she is a wonder to behold. In my studies, in my research, as far as MK Ultra is concerned, CIA mind control, I thought I came across everything. And, well, I kind of sort of did, because anyone who's ever researched MK Ultra has seen certain pictures. And there's a picture that we've all seen. You've seen this picture of this little girl in what appears to be a hospital bed, strapped up, seemingly immobilized, and it says, strain the urine, and these other things in the photo. This is a child who was underneath the MK Ultra program by the CIA. Ladies and gentlemen, I have this individual with us today. Please welcome onto the show, Ellen Atkin. I want to go into the history here. We know where you are today, but I want to dive deep into the history of this. There you are on that hospital bed. Did you research what it was exactly that they were doing to you? Because with all the notes in that picture, you were getting the workup. So, did you research what
No, I
you
have no
Googled?
idea where that was or when that was. I have no memories of it. I have memories of things like on the other side of the veil that may be dreams. I definitely could say that a lot of them are lucid dreams, but maybe I have other memories too that they're the other side of the veil. They're not popping into my consciousness. And another thing is, I'm not going to play the role of I'm trying to prove to other TIs that I'm that person or that I've had this stuff done to me. That's just nonsense, and I don't need that. And I certainly don't. When you think about the community, what they're really about, it's just this vicious little cesspool, really. I'm not interested, and I've actually accomplished a lot in my life. It may not be the material gains to show of it, but I certainly have done things despite all this stuff. And I, it's not like it's just constantly living on the edge, but I'm able to, I've kept my freedom and my mind, basically. Even though I look back and it's like, oh my God, I was so mind controlled, but it's still a natural part of getting older as well. That you look back and go, holy. And the things I thought or said or did, I mean, it happens to everybody who ages properly, I guess. But it's more so with me because that picture threw me so hard for a loop. I really needed counseling.
I have David Steffen with us. But first, I want to play a clip of his trials and tribulations, if you guys don't know who he is.
And Amanda, you and I both remember what happened when David Steffen was convicted of failing to provide the necessities of life after his 19-month-old son, Ezekiel, died from bacterial meningitis. He was found guilty back in 2016. David, you waited until your son was too stiff to move. Most doctors say that he had the signs, whether it's meningitis or not. The point is, you were giving him your remedies and not using scientific medicine, and your son died. And that is neglect. Why did you not take him to a doctor sooner?
Where are you getting your information from? Because
well, you were convicted. That's where you were convicted in your son's death. Okay, no. Reading from the court documents, your son is 19 months old.
That is not from
David,
do not lie.
your son. Don't call me a liar. You're convicted in the death of your 19-month-old son.
And Alberta dad will go to jail. It's house arrest for a mother convicted in the death of their toddler.
With the death of their toddler son.
David Steffen was convicted of his son's death.
Being convicted in the death of his son.
Guilty in the death of their young son.
And found guilty in the death of their young son.
Convicted in the death of their 19-month-old son.
Now, he ruled the parents' actions didn't cause Ezekiel's death.
Justice Durkee did not find that Mr. and Mrs. Steffen caused Ezekiel to die.
It wasn't just the verdict that they lied about. They lied about the maple syrup. They lied about the car seat stiffness. They lied about him being sick for weeks on end. They lied about everything.
They shunned traditional medicine, instead treating him with garlic, onions, horseradish, as well as he lay ill for weeks.
So Colette's friend Terry Minders comes in. She's an ER nurse. And she checks on Ezekiel. And what she testifies of in court is that there was nothing obvious to her. There was nothing. There was no snotty nose, there was no congestion that she could hear, there was nothing abnormal in his breathing or his behavior. And this was one day before Ezekiel entered the hospital. Fast forward almost 2 years, and these dirtbags are still stalking him and his wife. And the way they're going about it is inhumanely brutal.
Steffen was booked as a featured speaker at the Health and Wellness Expo.
So late last night we packed him up and we sent him out, and he's canceled from all of our tours in the country.
But Amanda, I know we're up against the clock. Would anyone go and see this guy? A lot of people are saying yes.
That's my concern. It's not about him. It's that people will listen to him and believe that you don't need modern medicine.
Why would people listen to this guy who's selling products that don't work? They're not scientifically tested.
34 medical journal publications.
And just a second.
Publications.
Here's a guy selling material where he can't even care for his own child.
Not only were his products scientifically tested, but it was well documented by the same media groups who were calling it snake oil.
Province of Alberta, when they heard about the effect that Empower Plus was having on Albertans, they said, why don't we look into this? There's huge costs associated with it. And Mr. Speaker, they set up a $544,000 study.
TrueHope.com is the website for a Canadian company. They sell a pill called Empower Plus.
A medication called True Hope.
True Hope nutritional support on a supplement called True Hope.
True Hope nutritional support. The supplement, now called EM Power.
Thousands of people around the world are already using Empower 18+. True Hope claims it supports mental and emotional well-being, and research shows it works.
Dr. Kaplan and her team already knew the supplement worked on adults.
Researchers are still studying the supplement. The Harvard Medical School is now on board.
The patients in the sample got much better.
we decided to try it, and it worked.
A doctor at Harvard found Empower Plus helped 19 out of 22 patients with bipolar disorder, and a research team at the University of Calgary also found the supplement has, quote, a beneficial psychotropic effect.
Then they took the supplements away. The mood swings came back.
And in all cases, we showed a statistically and clinically significant improvement with the supplement. Quite a few of them were more than 75% better.
Researchers in Calgary monitored 350 people with bipolar disorder who took the supplement daily for 6 months.
Even after 5 days on the supplement, Joe felt better.
I'm such a better person when I'm happy.
This has brought me to recognize a new me.
8 years later, Lou says the product saved her life.
The decrease in their symptoms is of a magnitude that is very impressive. Any medication that ever had this effect would catch a lot of people's attention.
And we're thinking to ourselves, the media couldn't possibly be any dirtier. And then we find this email between these two officers. And the one describes to the other how these reporters have been feeding him information. And the information is bad. These reporters are trying to influence the investigation by feeding the police false information.
True Hope Nutritional Support. The Alberta company makes a supplement to help people with mental disorders. The judge found them not guilty by reason of necessity.
It wasn't just the media in this case that were dirty. Some of the other things just didn't add up. The police, the CPS people at the hospital, the doctor that's in charge of investigating abuses, they all said that there wasn't any need for charges. So when the RCMP came out with charges, we were a little confused. And what had happened is they had turned the file over to the Raymond RCMP, which is odd because David didn't live there. It's not where Ezekiel got sick. He didn't stop breathing there. The RCMP in Raymond are where David's workplace is. That's where his office is. So, of course, the charges lead to the trial. The trial's a mess. That was publicized all over the news. And what ends up happening is he's found guilty. And we appeal it, and we lose. So then we hire this investigative team to dig in and figure out what went wrong. And what they found was that the RCMP in Raymond had selectively picked through the medical files to get the ones they wanted for a conviction. So after the verdict, we go out and we get our own copy of the information because nothing lined up. And what we find is that we get 623 pages of medical records, and they only delivered 453. The 453 pages that were used in court would tell a very different story than the ones that they had left out. So we started to think, what are these guys hiding? Well, long story short, we know how he died. And I'm going to say this, there is no place on God's green earth where these people who did this are going to be able to hide from the truth.
David and Colette Stephan arrived at court hand in hand with their 3 children. The couple are now living in a trailer parked in a farmyard. Colette told court they have sold virtually everything of value and used up all of their savings to pay their legal expenses. Colette described the trial as absolute torture, that she was forced to relive the most horrible day that ever happened in their lives.
What you see today is a parent who is attempting to protect his other 4 children and his wife from the truths that keep on coming out and from the lies that took place within the court system where they tried to cover up the fact.
So we have 2 things there that just were not lining up. But the red herring, or the irrelevant information that was really concerning, was the fact that loaded into this report was how the death would have been completely prevented, or basically they're alluding to that, had he been vaccinated. And I thought, wait a minute, this is either to guilt us somehow and try to convince us that we need to vaccinate our other children, or this is going to be used in a vaccine court case. They're going to charge us. And so they ended up actually phoning us. They had somebody phone us from the medical examiner's office and conveying that exact information, saying, we determined that it was bacterial meningitis and that there's a vaccine that would have prevented that. And so I asked them, well, what was the infectious agent? This is just prior to getting the autopsy report. And they said, well, actually, I don't know. And I said, well, what vaccine would have been that could have prevented it? Because I wanted to go and investigate myself deeper. I'd already investigated vaccines a fair bit prior to that, especially with the line of work that we're involved in, as we have a lot of parents with autistic children that phone us in regards to the nutritional supplements that we have. And we heard over and over and over this common story of my child was normal, healthy, developing at the proper rate after vaccines, complete regression, and now they're not thriving at all. And so we were well aware of vaccines and the issues about it, but I wanted to see what it was that they were claiming would have assisted my son. And they couldn't give me that answer over the phone, so it wasn't until I got the autopsy report and they claimed that it was Haemophilus influenza, yet they couldn't determine whether or not it was type A, type B, type C, or any of the non-typables. And yet there's only the Hib vaccine, which is for type B. So anyways, when I saw that information, I was concerned about it, and I thought they're going to charge us, and they're going to make this a vaccine trial. And sure enough, 3 months later, we get the phone call from the police. They want to meet with us. They did, and they laid charges on us.
We have a returning guest with some excellent information and an update on his situation. I know you guys all remember David Steffen. David, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me on again, B.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you guys missed the last episode with Mr. Steffen, I'll put the link in the show. So, Mr. Steffen, you've got some great news for us.
Well, since the last time that we spoke, I was just on the road then, and we were awaiting the Supreme Court hearing, which we were really hopeful for, because what took place during our court case is that the law basically had to be changed. A new precedent was set that really put every parent in Canada in a precarious situation, especially if they were associated at all with natural health, if they used that for their children or whatnot. It would make it really easy for the Crown to lay criminal charges against them and to gain a conviction based on what took place during our trial. So what we were looking to do was overturn that conviction and get that precedent wiped away so that it wasn't putting every other parent in Canada in that precarious situation. So we went before the appeals courts in Alberta, and they upheld the conviction, but there was one judge who stated, based on the error that was made in law from the first trial judge, that the jury was left with no choice but to find us guilty based on that error in law. So a wrongful conviction is what he was stating. And the other two judges just went with the status quo. They upheld that conviction. They upheld the new precedent that had to be set in order to get us found guilty by the jury. And so we took it to the Supreme Court of Canada, so the highest court in Canada, and they heard both sides. They were left with, I believe it was 60 pages of information from our lawyers, 30 pages of factum for myself, a 30-page factum for my wife, and then they received a 30-page factum from the Crown that just basically said, well, it was a good enough trial. Basically, you're not entitled to a high-quality trial here in Canada, is what they were trying to state, which, a lot of money goes into the judicial system to uphold that illusion of justice here in Canada. And so, for them to say you're not entitled to a high-quality trial, that we can basically run amok, create a bunch of drama within the courtroom, and you basically have to just take it. That's not right. So anyways, the 7 Supreme Court judges took a look at it, and they basically just grilled the Crown on a number of points, and they went back to the chambers and came back within I believe it was about 10 minutes, and they came out with a unanimous deliberation wherein our convictions were overturned.
We're going to talk about EMF, and I have Scott Compton with us.
So a lot of people out there know me as Mr. Spock with an MYSTER, and I do a lot of back in the day I was a biologist, and the last 20-ish years I've been poking around in the sciences for a long time because of my own exposures to EMFs, mainly being electrosensitive through my vision and through my hearing and my head especially. So I'm very sensitive to EMFs in our environments. And in the last 2-ish years, I've met with a bunch of people like in the quantum physics and quantum biology communities, circadian biology, et cetera, and we all kind of like formed this group. We wanted to make something to like get awareness out to the world about EMFs and how they can intersect our lives, how they can harm us, all the scientific observations, the massive literature that's there that really mainstream has been ignoring forever. And really getting it out to the public in a way that they can digest it, understand it, and use this information in their lives, in their environments to make themselves better, especially if they're sensitive, if they can actually feel it. Now, even if you don't feel it, you're being hit with this stuff. Like Martin Paul's work, for instance, is showing that it's an oxidative stressor that can basically, from free radical generation, mess around with your cells and make you have more free radicals. Therefore, you need more free radical scavengers like antioxidants in order to compensate for it. But in our modern world, we're being hit with and bombarded with so many stressors in our lives. EMFs, again, is like this part of this toxic soup that we're being inundated with that we're just not, most people are not even aware of it, and they're willingly putting it into their lives.
And so you are the founder of ClimateViewer.com?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm 41 years old, live in Sumter, South Carolina. I've got a wife and 2 daughters, and I run 3 websites, ClimateViewer.com, ClimateViewer.org, and WeatherModificationHistory.com. So ClimateViewer.com is my blog. It used to be on WordPress. I now hand-code it with something called Hugo, which I'm in love with. And ClimateViewer.org is an open source 3D globe replacement for Google Earth. It's available at cesiumjs.org or something like that, but ClimateViewer.org is ClimateViewer 3D, where you can see real-time satellites, earthquakes, volcanoes, weather, and you can see maps you cannot find anywhere else on the internet, like geoengineering and weather modification projects around the world, cloud seeding generators across America, the HAARP High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, and all of the ionospheric heaters from around the world. Finally, my jewel of the internet is WeatherModificationHistory.com, where those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. And it is the most complete, well-referenced, and most referenced site on the internet on the subject of the history of weather control and those who dare screw with our skies. So if you want to know who, what, when, where, and why, my sites are where you come. Over there, I pretty much talked about the 3 Ps that matter to most people: pollution, privacy, and propaganda. And the 3 are very intimately related, because if you're an activist and you want to talk about pollution, they're going to violate your privacy, and then they're going to make a whole lot of propaganda about what you said and who you are, question your motives, question your agendas, make sock puppets and social media accounts to, basically tell everybody, oh, this is not a thing, and shut you down. Everybody knows this. But at climateviewer.com, if you click on, say, the privacy page, you can actually see how that works and who does it and how it all relates and who the Five Eyes are. The Five Eyes are Ozcan, Zuckus, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, UK, and how these guys, the Deep State Stone Ghost Network, will violate your privacy if you dare talk about something called geoengineering. So I have this page, it's at climateviewer.com/geoengineering, and it's called Geoengineering and Weather Modification Exposed. And on it, I have a pretty lengthy fact here, which will give you an introduction to geoengineering if you've never heard anything about it. Who's pushing geoengineering? And this is one of the most important slides you're ever going to see because it really shows you who's behind the curtain. Most of the websites you're going to go to, most of the YouTube channels that talk about geoengineering, they're not really, looking to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt who, what, when, where, and why, the basics. They're just, talking about agendas and all of that. So up on the screen right now, this is from a paper called Mapping the Landscape of Climate Engineering. It was published in 2014, and it shows, generally speaking, who is paying for geoengineering research. And the largest being the National Science Foundation, the European Commission, NASA, the NRC in the UK, and EPSRC, not exactly sure who they are, the Royal Society's in there. But this one right here, Fund for Innovative Climate and Energy Research, FICER, FICER, that is Bill Gates. And Bill Gates put a whole bunch of money in a pot, and he said to Ken Caldera and David Keith, you guys decide who to give the money to do the research. So that's why they're the two most famous geoengineers on the planet. And on the right-hand side of this image, it says SRM authors, and you can see their names here. Ken Caldera, David Keith, Alan Robach, Ben Kravitz, Peter J. Irvine, Jim Haywood, Andy Jones, Philip Roche, and the list goes on. So these are the guys who are really pushing the current global governance of geoengineering or solar radiation management. So if you're new to this and you don't know what solar radiation management is, please come over here and check out the fact sheets and the geoengineering programs and stuff. But basically it goes like this. They'll tell you that global warming is causing X, Y, and Z, and that in order to cool the planet down, that they can mimic a volcano by spraying sulfates, metals, and other materials like diamond dust into the sky and reflect sunlight away. So that's blocking sunlight coming into the planet. That's called solar radiation management, SRM. This is a form of geoengineering. The one they don't want you to know about and don't want talked about in public has now been dubbed Earth Radiation Management, or ERM. So there's two parts to this, and the second part nobody wants to admit. SRM is basically the use, blocking the incoming, the incoming radiation. ERM is when the heat hits the ground, it should be going back out to space. There's something stopping it. And that thing that's stopping it is commonly referred to as chemtrails on the internet. So these cirrus clouds, once the sunlight goes through them and hits the ground, they create a blanket. And that blanket is also what I like to call the Venus effect. Venus is covered in sulfuric acid clouds and will never have a cloud to stay ever again.
I have Stephen Kelly from Truth Cat Radio on with us. Stephen, how are you doing?
Hey, happy to be here. Wow, V, wow, what an honor, huh? Anyway, happy to be here. Anyway, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephen D. Kelly, K-E-L-L-E-Y. If you Google my name, you'll see all the notorious things that they've got up there for me. But anyway, actually going to be here for some time because he's been on one of the shows on my network here a while back, and so I'm really happy to be here right now with you guys. But if you don't know who I am, I've been a whistleblower now for at least a good 5 years, and I was involved with the CIA and the NSA for about 20 years before that, and I'm most famous, well known for my campaign to expose the bunker underneath the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, California, and the child sex slaves that are underneath it that need to be rescued. So that's my big thing right now, and I promise you if we can complete that mission, we'll have paradise on Earth.
This is why I keep my show organic, and I'm blown away right now. You're touching on all the issues that I would really like to touch on, as I usually touch on.
Anytime I get a chance to get the message out there, it's great. I don't know exactly who your audience is, but I have to assume that maybe they haven't heard about me. So we should dive right in. If you have any questions, what do you think the most pertinent thing is people might want to hear? What do you think?
Well, your history. Let's go into that.
History?
Please.
Oh boy.
Let's please.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Southern California. I got into, right out of high school, I got into electro-optics, which is basically lasers and all of that technology. And if you don't, these are the days before computers. I mean, not really semiconductors. So we were writing this was responsible for the boom in the semiconductor revolution and computer revolution and all that technology. And needless to say, we were also working with a lot of stuff that's associated with the alien technology, if you will, night vision, lasers, photomicrolithography, or semiconductors. This was all alien technology. So that was interesting that I would be involved in all that because eventually I got recruited by the CIA. As soon as I left working for that, I went to work with my brother, and we got hooked up with the CIA almost immediately, and that led to all sorts of crazy adventures. But that started back when Saddam Hussein was fighting the Iranians. And anyway, the next big project was turned out to be NSA, Ollie North, but I thought it was CIA. But anyway, I was making lasers for these guys. I had a contract for 40,000 solid-state laser diodes, which at the time was the biggest contract for laser diodes in the world because this was all new technology. So, and that all went into weapon systems. But I had a falling out with those guys because they were wiping out villages full of women and children and stuff, and chickens and dogs and cattle. That's why I had my wake-up call. And then immediately after that, I got hooked up to Billy Meyer and all the UFO stuff. If you don't know who Billy Meyer is, check that out. But I guess but the point is when you get heavy into the CIA and NSA and all that crap, you pretty much find out that UFO stuff is going to come up really quick because that's really what they're about. And then the other thing that comes up really quick with these guys is all this psychic business and the men who stare at goats type stuff. So bottom line is I found out about this bunker under the Getty. They tried to recruit me to go out to Area 51. I didn't work out because I knew too much, and I became kind of an enemy. But in the process, I learned that the power was in psychic skill, psychic development. So I stopped being a guns and weapons guy because I was a major guns and weapons guy, and I turned into a major Jedi. You know, we don't use guns. Jedi don't use guns. But, right?
Correct.
What is it that, what did he say, Obi-Wan? He said,
Blasters are clumsy.
Blasters are clumsy, yes.
This is a very special episode because I get to touch on the issues of what's going on with my Native American family.
My name is Justin Keyser. I'm from White Earth, Minnesota, and northern part of Minnesota, from the White Earth Indian Reservation, a small village by the name of Natawash. Up here, we've been actively fighting a couple different corporations, actively fighting a polymet mine that's been proposed in the Bonji Water Canoe area in Minnesota, and which actually just got approval. And Line 3 pipeline, Enbridge Line 3 pipeline, a Canadian-owned pipeline that they're trying to reroute and repair an old line that they never really properly consulted our tribes on here in Minnesota. And there's a lot of things that are coming out of it. In fighting this pipeline, we discovered that there's been different corporate deals that they've been making with not only Enbridge, but with like Monsanto, Monsanto Bayer, Syngenta, American Crystal Sugar, 3M, Polymet. And there's been a lot of different things that they've been trying to do, corporate maneuvering to bypass laws that have been established in that deal specifically with our treaties, these treaties that we have between nations, between our tribal nation, or our indigenous nation here in the United States and the United States government, and how they've manipulated that through different corporate actions and resolutions and business deals to undermine our rights here.
And it didn't matter where I went, wherever I drive, it didn't matter where I would go. Ohio, Indiana, I ended up driving all the way to the state of New York out of complete and utter fear, complete and utter, total fear. I felt like I was completely losing my mind. And it wasn't until about, I'd say 7 or 8 months after it really started, in April of 2016, that I got online. I started looking some things up, and then someone came on to my Facebook or something. Somehow I connected with another TI, and she said, "This sounds like gang stalking." I'm like, gang stalking? What is that? I had never heard of it. Well, I started to do some research, and I was like, oh my God. I started to read about the tactics that were used, street theater. I had that happening all the time. The break-ins, the theft, and then putting things back. They call it ghosting, right?
Or
also
gaslighting. That's
gaslighting
the usual
and ghosting.
term is gaslighting. It's done to make you think that you're either crazy or to let you know that you're not alone, you're being watched, and they can violate your personal space at any time. They can violate you. They own you.
Yes.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Truth. True that. I also, during that time, it wasn't just the crime and the gaslighting and so forth, but there were numerous spam phone calls to my dad's landline. And I would look some of these up. There were like dozens per day for months on end. And when they would come back into the display, it would say stuff like back brace or cancer something or other, or health, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was meant to really torment me because I've had back problems. Because when I was 15, I had cancer. Just whatever was said on that display definitely caught my attention. And when I started to read more about these tactics, it's like, okay, sensitization. Now I understand that when I'm driving around and I'm seeing all this red and black and people dressed in this way, people wearing t-shirts that would grab my attention, literally had things on their t-shirts that said something that I had just said like the day or two before. It grabbed my attention. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why is this happening? Back with direct conversation and t-shirts.
Well, I want to say, I want to explain this for the audience. This is hypnotic suggestion. This is actually spoken about in the NSA Mind Control Psyop Manual. Talking about it again, and this is really what's going on. There are so many things put into your environment. This is social engineering. This is the conditioning and sensitizing you to certain triggers. This is what Manchurian Candidate stuff is all about. It's the little things that are put into your environment, placed there to get you to act a certain way. Now, the talking to yourself thing, that is done on purpose. You're giving them your thoughts. You're logging what you're going through. They like people to emote as if you had a journal for them to read. It's really perverse. They want to get your mind reeling. You have to do self-inventory, self-doubt. You doubt your world, and it's a breakdown at that point. And you guys know all about my quest to expose the corruption in government, especially as far as covert technologies are concerned. The aspect of the government having technology that we don't have is the very definition of tyranny. Here they want to take away our guns. You know, saying that, you know, we can't have automatic rifles when they have automatic rifles. We should be fighting to have aircraft and aircraft carriers at this point to be on par with our very own government. As we're not supposed to have a federal government, so to speak, not with the commanding imperialistic military force, such as the Department of Defense that we have currently. There are too many secrets in our government, too many top secret programs that none of us will ever hear about until victims come forth, or we see victims in the news or in the media. And so, basically, to cover the aspect of the NSA Mind Control PSYOP Manual, which I'm going to put the link below where you can download this manual. It was leaked by an NSA agent by the name of Will Filler. And so, without further ado, I have on the show with me Mr. Scott Hensler. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm looking forward to answering your questions.
Well, first off, I'd like for you to introduce yourself, as I like my guests to toot their own horns.
Well, I've been a deliverance minister for 18 years. I come from a background of engineering, of electronics and radio. I've worked for Motorola, General Electric, and contracted with Intel and various other companies. But there was a time in my life when I realized that there was a spiritual world out there that was trying to eliminate my life and those who I loved around me. And when I came to the understanding of this particular type of demonic entities that were part of a generational curse, part of the documents that have been implemented, much like you're discussing here tonight with NSA, that there's an evil force that wishes to basically remove us from the face of the earth. When I came to the understanding of who Jesus Christ was, that was stage one. The second stage was to realize who I was in Christ and to act accordingly to his word to take back what the enemy has stolen. And as I've moved forth in the past years here to be one as a deliverance minister, some refer to as an exorcist, with my technical background, I've been able to systematically understand the nature of evil in a technical sense of 1, 2, 3 ABC, and making it simplistic ability for those wanting to know the truth. The documents, the websites, the podcasts, the YouTube channels that I've done explains in detail, but in a very simple manner for everyone to understand just what we're dealing with. And so I've got several sites out there. One is tinfoilhatclub.com. And the reason I chose that name was because of the stigma against those who understand conspiracies, that these are conspiracy facts, that anyone that is called a conspiracy theorist is some kind of a nut job. Well, that's not the case at all. We're actually ones looking for the truth. And so if they're going to call me this, then I embrace it. I embrace it because I know who I am. I stand in the truth, and the facts that I present forward can be verified by easy means.
Yes, you know, you are a man after my own heart. I've actually said that early on in the earlier days of my TV show. I don't deal with conspiracy theory. I deal in conspiracy fact. The things I talk about can be researched, all the way from patents to the money, you know, follow the money sort of a situation. And a lot of people just don't want to hear that our government could be corrupt or any institution is doing something that's beyond their technical capabilities or understandings. And so, actually, I have a team of people who post online about my TV show, and they there is an overwhelming sense of understanding and welcoming of the information, but every now and again, especially with dealing with Christians or, let's say, gun rights activists, oh, well, you know, you're just a nutcase. You're just tinfoil, you know, conspiracy nuts. And they can't conceive that even though the government's trying to take away the guns, that any false flag operations could never be mind control. Whenever these false flag shooters are caught, and they explicitly say they had voices tell them what to do, oh, well, that's just impossible. Well, how else do you think it could be done? And you yourself being a minister and knowing the background of this stuff, I mean, what is your experience with dealing with such people?
Well, with the information you just brought up, dealing with mind control and psyop, social engineering, there's two ways that I address it, and I've had to do this over the years. That as one who deals with the demonic, when you have someone who's schizophrenic and they're hearing voices, those are demons. But now we have a new kid on the block, and that's psychotronics, or voice to skull. Now they can also mimic demons, they can also mimic God, they can lead a person to believe that they're hearing from God, or that they're being driven to a point of insanity because the voices won't stop, that are constantly harassing them. That in either case, it's still all based in evil, because those who implement psychotronics or voice to skull are evil people. When we deal with humanity, we should be dealing with love, kindness, and understanding. When you have people who are Luciferians, who are demonic, who are narcissistic in their behaviors, they wish to control, they wish to inflict harm onto others, and by doing so, this also elevates their demonic power. So what's being done to Americans and being done to others in the world of Europe and Asia, as well as Africa, that it is a harassment against mankind that through the evil acts allows evil to have one more step up, one more grade up. And over the years through technology, which has evolved from fallen angel technology, that they've taken it to a new level. And this is part of the end times. This is part of the beast system.
This is not being talked about a lot. I mean, I hear people joke around about this issue as if it were not a big deal, but it really is a big deal. What am I talking about? I'm talking about organ harvesting. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mitchell Nicholas Gerber.
Well, guys, my name is Mitchell, aka Lionheart, because my heart's always been supporting the good and exposing evil in this world. And in 2001, I came across an issue that we so politely allowed me to come on and share with you about the forced organ harvesting in Communist China, where the Chinese Communist Party, the official title given to that demonic, monstrous regime that has controlled China for the last 50 plus years, decimated traditional Chinese culture and values, killed purposely over 60 to 80 million Chinese people, and now, for the last 80 plus years, continuing to this day, are forcefully sending 4 different types of groups of people to state-mandated hospitals: the Tibetan Buddhists, the House Christians, the Uyghur Muslims, and the largest group, a spiritual mind and body practice called the Falun Gong. These 4 types of groups of people have been sent, hundreds and thousands, to state-mandated hospitals all over China, at least 800 hospitals, and death camps, labor camps. Their organs then removed, cut out of the body while alive. The organs then sold for massive amounts of profits, and the bodies then burned in the boiler rooms of the hospitals to conceal the evidence, as well as being sold to the body world exhibitions that are touring around the world. So yeah, guys, this is a new form of evil. It's crazy, it's insane, but it is happening.
What's the Falun Gong?
The Falun Gong is a spiritual movement. It originated in China in 1992. Really, really powerful for the body, really good for the health, the longevity, the spiritual vitality. It relieves anxiety, very similar to Chinese yoga, Tai Chi. But however, with Falun Gong, this outnumbered the number of people in the communist regime by 13 million people. Not only that, the ideology of Falun Gong is more the truthful, compassionate, and tolerant nature, freedom and independence, organicness, relaxation. Nothing wrong with that, right? Especially freedom of thought, independent liberty, independent critical thinking, consideration of others. But this ideology is in clash with the totalitarian regime of China that believes in demonicness, deception, barbarism, censorship, killing, control, and that was the second reason why Falun Gong was outlawed. And the reason why Falun Gong particularly was banned and persecuted is because the Chinese communist regime targeted them for their organs, because when you practice these 5 exercises of slow-moving energy and movement, Falun Gong exercises, you purify your body, you open up all the energy channels, the blood circulates even better, you feel more healthier, and the organs become more rejuvenated. So this practice, this became the life force of China, where 1 out of every 12 Chinese national citizens were practicing the Falun Gong exercises and meditation by 1998. Very high-ranking officials, professors, military generals, high-ranking communist officials were all practicing by that time. By 1999, it was completely outlawed. And then they were sent off to death camps and hospitals, and the organs removed and sold the healthiest organs in the world illegally without consent, forcefully removed.
I have a clip show for you guys. And I've been wanting to do this for quite some time because it's really ridiculous how much people, and I don't want to say just a certain race of people doing this, but you know, you'll see in the video clips who's doing it, and it's really a terrible thing to have the police enforce racism. And that's being done a lot. People don't understand this being done. And I want to point it out. It's even happened to me, and I will show you the clip of that towards the end of the show. But for right now, let's go ahead and go through all these.
It's a female. She's wearing a green.
Tell them I'll be here when they arrive. That I will be waiting for them to arrive.
A white.
You can tell them her name is
dress,
Camilla Hudson. I have
she says
ID
her
and
name
will
is
share
Camilla
it.
Hudson. And it's probably spelled C-A-M-I-L-L-A-H.
You got it. Exactly, like the river.
Morry, M-O-R-R-Y. Matson, M-A-T-S-O-N. African American.
Black. No, I'm not African American. I'm black. Black isn't a bad word.
All right, thank you.
So here we have a man, full-grown man, shaking in terror of being confronted by a strong black woman. Now, racism doesn't just come in the form of hatred. Racism can come in the form of fear. I don't know what can drive a fully grown man to be such a wuss. But as you can see, this man was shaking in terror. And this is really something I'm having a hard time commenting on because I can't see that mind frame from any direction, but I don't know, maybe it's something you guys can enlighten me on. Now, this next clip I want to show you involves a little bit more than racism. This is a COP, or a citizen on patrol, a gang stalker, COINTELPRO operative, whose job is completely reduced to stalking people and making a big deal by the most minor infractions on people of color.
I hear you have a problem with these gentlemen having a barbecue here at the lake. What's going on?
Now she don't want to talk.
She doesn't want to talk now.
It's illegal to have a charcoal grill in the park here.
No, it's not actually. I just looked at the map.
is.
It says this is a designated barbecue area.
No, not for a charcoal grill. No charcoal grills are allowed. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I gotta try and give it.
You must not have looked up.
What kind of
correctly.
grill are you not allowed, and why are you so bent out of shape over them being
Because
here?
it causes extra money from our city to do things when children get injured because of improperly disposed of.
So are you saying that they're going to hurt children out here, or I mean, like, what is with this?
There's laws about this park, and
I know
if
the
you're
laws
following
about
them,
this park.
And charcoal grills are not allowed here.
So they should go buy a new grill because I just looked
They
at it and it
shouldn't be
doesn't say
doing charcoal
anything.
grills in here. I don't care.
Are you sure? Are you sure it's not because you don't want black people being out here?
It has nothing to do with their race.
It seems like a new Jim Crow going on because for some reason every time I see it, black people are the ones targeted regarding barbecuing at the lake. And you're a perfect example of it right now. It's two men sitting out here just chilling, and this whole setup is real clean. I don't see
care.
they're not. They
It's
don't
not
have
a
loud
matter about the
music.
clean. It's
You
about
want to
the
call the
charcoal
police
grill.
on them.
I have called.
You
the
want to
police
call the police on them for having a barbecue on a
In an illegal
Sunday at
spot.
the lake.
Yes.
I just looked at the map and it said this map is fine to barbecue.
No, it's not.
It
for
does.
Charcoal, not for charcoal.
Not a cut.
You
Did
can
I
have
just
a
send it to you?
non-charcoal grill, but not a charcoal grill.
Okay, well this is exactly what's the problem with Oakland today. This lady right here wants to sit here and call the police on them for having a barbecue at the lake as if this is not normal.
That's
This lady has been harassed.
You can have barbecue.
Yes.
And this is where we are. Yeah, and she just sitting out here. She just sitting out here. And I just looked and the map says it's on barbecue. It doesn't say anything about coals. Jeez. 2 hours. She's this bad out of shape out of this little barbecue right here. They're not even doing a big event.
Go home with your potato salad. This is where you can have a grill. It's on wheels. It's fine.
It cannot have charcoal on it.
Yes, what's that?
No, it's not.
Okay, let's have a charcoal debate because these guys are sitting out here peacefully having a barbecue.
You guys have a problem with us having a barbecue?
Oh, here's the thing about that too.
Does anybody have a problem with them having a barbecue? Like, is there a reason why we're calling the police? If you call the police for 2 hours and you're sitting here, the police aren't coming for you, my dear. See, you're not even on your phone. She ain't even talking to nobody. She just showed me her face. She ain't even on the phone. Like, she's not talking to anybody. She's playing around. She's been faking it the whole time. I just saw her screen settings.
No, you can hear it's on
It's
the
1-0?
It's on the hold for the Oakland Police Department.
Because they're not f***ing with you. They're not. They don't got time for this. Oh my gosh, look at how she's acting
this
now.
morning.
Look at how she's
There
acting
has been
now.
no police that
Look,
called
they're
me back,
shoving
and now they're
me.
shoving me. And
oh, they're shoving me. Look, you're on video the whole time. I have it on video. I didn't show you.
Lakeshore and Cleveland Cascade, also 23,
I didn't
24
touch her. I
Lakeshore.
asked her to give me the card. I'm asking her to give me my card
23,
back.
24 Lakeshore. It's in the park.
She
on Lake
stole
Merritt.
my card. That's what I'm
I made a
asking for.
report at about 11:02
She stole my card.
this morning. They said
Can
they
you
would
please
send
give
a
me the
police
card back?
officer.
Yes, it's so threatening. 2 black men are having a barbecue. Oh my God.
I know. I don't
Oh my
understand.
God.
That's why I need a police
Look how
officer to
scared she is.
come.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
They're having a barbecue at the lake on a Sunday. Please. I'm so scared. Oh. Look at this
Yes,
drama.
I
She was
am.
not acting like this a minute ago. We have so much footage of it. I wish we had the footage of her stealing my card.
They keep following me.
They keep following me because I'm following them. Nobody asked you to be here.
We were here first.
Nobody asked
What are
you
you
to
talking
be here. You're the one harassing people. You're the one harassing people.
And the video we're about to upload is about to damage your whole life.
I know. Look at this. She's so scared. I'm not touching her though.
They're threatening me.
I'm not threatening her. I wouldn't hurt her. I'm not stupid. Why would I hurt her?
No, I'm not.
Now she's trying to run away. Can I have my card back?
I'm being harassed.
Okay. Can you back
I
off?
would like her to give me the card that she stole
Yes.
from me.
Can you back off?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm at the quick stop. Ma'am, can you just back off just a tad so I can talk to her? Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
I reported about over 2 hours ago someone illegally grilling in the park with a charcoal grill, but they're not supposed to. I was waiting there for a response because I was told they're coming. After 2 hours, I quickly called back the non-emergency warning. And then in turn, these people started coming up and harassing me, physically pushing me.
I did not physically push her. She stole my card, and I wanted it back. I
thought
did not
you
touch
innocent.
her.
I thought you
I have
innocent.
witnesses.
I said, when I was on the phone, I started trying to keep walking away, like wait for you guys, and she kept following me.
Following you in prison?
Yes.
What, do you know the municipal code violation?
I do.
Why you get that? Let me talk to her.
The municipal code is under, it's 1264160. It's no person shall be a kindle of any fire, public part, except for designated barbecue as approved by the department.
You know if that's a barbecue?
No charcoal portable
It is
grill
a
max
barbecue
width
area. I looked at
is
the
only allowed
map.
in those areas.
Do me a favor, can you talk to my partner? And then
Now, did you notice how this lady was the one doing the harassing? The lady lied about being pushed and shoved, because you saw it on camera. There was no pushing, there was no shoving, there's no assault. And how she was smiling at the beginning of the video. This white lady was smiling at the beginning of this video. She's on the phone, she's calling the police, ha ha ha. She's stalking these people, harassing them. But when the police show up, what happens? The waterworks start happening. She's crying. She's oh so traumatized. Oh, these horrible black people. They assaulted me. They harassed me. They followed me. And she's the victim here somehow. And this is how a lot of black people get hemmed up. Are thrown into the system for no reason whatsoever. No good reason. All because of some acting damsel who's not in distress, who is just there to push an agenda, whether it's government co-opted or not. And it's sickening. This happens every day in every city in America.
I'm gonna do a little psychological war breakdown. And some people think that, you know, the psychological warfare or psyops, that's government, that's military, paramilitary, overseas stuff. No. It happens right there in America. Okay? To everyone, whether you know it or not. There's a psyop on you or played against you at any time, anywhere, by any government employee. It doesn't even have to be a government employee. Somebody that knows the game. And the certain example that I'm talking about is police corruption. So I've got a quote right here, actually, from from the owner of the media, the entire concept of police being armed with legal document creation, handcuffs, deadly weapons is tyranny within itself. They charge, give judgment, and execute if they feel like doing so, with little fear of repercussions, as the system gives them that authority. How can one person be a witness, the person who gives the charge, be an administrator, the person who gives citation, summons to court so that you can be robbed for your money, and be an enforcer, the person that takes away your freedom by forceful kidnap? In old days of society, these three jobs were held separately by three different people, not to show such blatant tyranny, which would make them no different than any criminal. If that weren't enough, they could decide to go and forego all formalities and just murder anyone who just doesn't comply with any lawful or unlawful order. Street gangs just take your shoes, purses, and, they fought amongst themselves when we had street gangs. Now we have government gangs that take the same things away from you with an addition to your life, liberty, and happiness. Being stripped of your constitutional rights. And they work together in unison as an army to do so. There's no infighting. They watch each other's backs like crazy. America has traded criminals for criminals with badges. Just like trading terrorists for terrorists with security clearances. The tyranny is only going to get worse so long as we keep stepping back and accepting every lie they tell us. So we're going to go into some examples of that. Watch this clip.
Now, live, this is CBS 4 News at 11.
We sent undercover cameras into dozens of police stations.
We wanted to find out how people would be treated and what the procedures are for filing complaints against police officers.
I-Team investigator Mike Kirsch is here now with his investigation into what some might consider police station intimidation.
Police departments around the country, like here in Tallahassee, give citizens police complaint forms all the time, no questions asked. But walk into a police station in South Florida trying to find out how to file a complaint and watch what happens.
Yeah, I wanted to find out how to file a complaint against an officer. I just wanted to find out how to do it. You guys have a form or something that I could take with me?
Well, you gotta tell me first, and then I gotta hear what's going on. You gotta tell me what the complaint is.
Do you have a complaint form that I can fill out or something like that?
Might not be a legitimate complaint.
Who decides that?
I'm trying to help you.
Like if there's a form, why can't I just take it and leave, right?
No, you don't leave with forms. You tell me what happened, and then I help you from there. Do you have an idea on you?
Why?
You know what? You need to leave. Okay? You're refusing to tell me what you want to do. Okay? You're refusing to tell me who's involved, where it happened, what transpired. You're not cooperating with me one bit.
I was just asking if you guys have a complaint form or like if there's some way for me to contact internal affairs.
You can do whatever the hell you want. It's a free country.
Why are you cursing at me?
Where do you live? Where do you live? All right, first of all, so you're not going to tell me where you live, what your name is, or anything like that, right?
I mean, if you're gonna if I have to.
Are you on medication?
Why would you ask me something like that?
Because you're not answering any of my questions.
So I'm on medication?
I asked you. It's a free country. I can ask you that.
Okay, you're right.
So you're not going to tell me who you are. You're not going to tell me what the problem is. You're not going to identify yourself.
All I asked you was how do I contact them?
You said you had a complaint. You said my officers are acting in an inappropriate manner. Leave now. Leave now.
I'll put you one as a...
Leave now. You better keep walking, son, before you get yourself into trouble.
I'm not doing anything wrong.
Neither am I. It's a free country. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Why did you get out of my face, man?
I'm not in your face. I'm standing. Sidewalk, free country. One more step towards me, see what happens. Take one more step towards me, see what happens. There's about 3 or 4 blocks south of the driveway.
So now, here we have a police officer who is unwilling to give up complaint form, and it's completely wrong. It's against any policy in any police station across the country. Supposed to give out complaint forms when asked for one, and they can be filled out anonymously. But this police officer is doing what most police officers, I think, would do, and that is to protect any of their fellow officers. Now, if that is the case, they're no longer protecting and serving you. They're protecting and serving themselves. Okay, this particular police officer is talking about not receiving any information. It's not necessary, again, but he's asking questions, personal questions about the person requesting the forms, because, now get this is very important. He's asking personal questions about the person requesting the forms because he wants to be able to track and target this person. Okay, this point, this person is a suspect or put on an unofficial terrorist list. Basically, this person, had he given his information, would be stalked by police. This is the tactics that gang stalkers. This is how gang stalkers get your information from police. How you saw how this police officer followed this person outside of the building and followed him down the street. I mean, if that's not a gang stalker, I don't know what is. In any scenario, try your best not to give any police any information about you. You're only obligated to give your name when they tell you to identify yourself. If you're not suspected of any infractions, suspected of anything, you don't have to give up an ID. So, but again, to incriminate, finding any reason. Are you on medication? Are you on da-da-da-da-da-da-da? That's beside the point. This is psychological warfare, because if you say that you take some sort of medication, well, then you're automatically crazy. He doesn't have to help you, even though that's a totally different ordeal by itself. You can try to search him and see if he has his medication, or if his medication is actually his. In some cases, it doesn't matter, carrying a substance, and they'll book you right then and there. There's a lot of things that can get you hemmed up when speaking with a police officer who's corrupt. And I can tell you, this police officer probably doesn't even know that he's doing police misconduct, because they're trained to do COINTELPRO, even though it's not what it's called. It's not what they know it by. It's not what you and I know it by. This is the conditioning of the New World Order police that we're all being subjugated to. We're all just supposed to believe police officers who are allowed legally to lie to you about any law or any policy, and make you accountable for everything that you say.
I have one of the best sources of information in media, definitely one of my esteemed peers. As we're going to be talking, this is going to be an introduction to a series I want to do on my TV show here about the false flag shootings. I have lots of friends in media, lots of talk show host friends. It's just going to be a series, because all my friends have covered this issue, instead of going to their guests, I'm going to have the accumulation of knowledge from all my talk show host friends, and we're just going to do powwow all the way down the line. Because we all have experience with these things, and we talk about stuff nonstop. So let's just get a requiem of the PSYOP and get exposed. So, with that said, I have Adam Kokesh from Adam vs. the Man. How you doing, Adam?
Outstanding, brother. Thanks for having me on this evening. This morning for you in Poland, it's after midnight. It's 6:25 here in beautiful Miami, Florida. I'm actually enjoying the remnants of a great sunset out here from the front seat of No Force One.
Yes, I heard you honking your horn earlier.
I have been very fortunate now, as someone who would describe himself as a full-time activist for 11 years, to have fallen over backwards into such a wonderful position that I find myself in today, where I'm running for not president of the United States, rather I'm running for president in order to turn the American presidential election into a referendum on whether or not the federal government should be allowed to exist at all. And in 2020, for the first time in American history, the American people will have a real choice. Whether to vote for some old party schmuck, red team, blue team, kind of same old crap as always, or something actually fundamentally different, to vote for freedom, to vote for the dissolution of the entire government, the entire federal government of the United States of America, in a peaceful, orderly, responsible manner, leaving us with 50 independent states, plus territories, plus sovereign native nations. And this is an idea whose time has come. America has realized we are too good for this government. And not only do we not need to be united under one government, to be united in American values, but forcing everybody into this one-size-fits-nobody but the profiteers solution is un-American and anti-freedom. And the sooner we can localize government, get it down to the community level, the sooner we'll be able to throw off this yoke of government entirely. That is, the institution. And let's be real about what government is. I don't have to tell you this, but oftentimes a lot of these silly debates that have been so colored by propaganda come down to a simple matter of making sure that we're using definitions properly. We're defining words the same way and speaking the same terms. So government is a territorial monopoly on the initiation of force. To govern is to control. When we talk about that institution, it's always at the expense of you, your rights. Everything government does is backed up with a gun, because taxation is theft. And how we get out of this is not with a revolution, but with an evolution. And the way we do that is not by fighting over our ideal society, or communists versus socialists versus conservatives versus constitutionalists versus libertarians. No, none of that. The idea of localizing government unites left, right, and center against the common enemy that is big centralized government. Because when you get government down to the community level, everybody gets what they want out of it. And it's at that point that it becomes voluntary. Community-based government isn't really government by a proper definition of government. We get government down here in the United States, down to the county level. First of all, we eliminate the federal government. There's going to be a race among the states of who can get dissolved down to the county first. But all we have to do to lead the world forward in freedom, as the American people did once with the first American Revolution, by overthrowing the biggest empire the world had ever seen, which incidentally we get to do again right now as Americans when we decide that we're not going to put up with it anymore, and show the world the way forward in freedom. Because when we dissolve the federal government in the United States, people in the rest of the world are going to be looking at their central governments like, do we really need you? And as soon as you ask that question, the answer becomes very obvious. Absolutely not.
Mystery.